are these people?
You have some more terrible news.
Um, of sorts. I mean, it's slightly more lighthearted, um, but yeah, not in necessarily the best possible way. But as I said, if you are a sports fan, I am not. But given that we have the Olympics happening this summer and then future World Cups, this might be, I think, just the implications with the Israel-Palestine conflict will be very
especially when
interesting
they're
to see how.
gonna let Israel.
Right.
Which
Right. So
wasn't there an Olympics where there was a whole hostage situation because of Palestine already? I think that was like PLO
maybe
back in the day.
if
Someone
you
in
know it,
chat let me know. I think that was,
right,
I remember something like that where they had to send
right,
special forces in and didn't go well.
right.
But yeah.
Who are these people?
Hey, look at
Oh,
that new donation from Oz. Look, see, it's very nice. Look at that. Um, it works. Now let's see if I can actually see if you left a message. Nope, you just gave us $5. Appreciate you.
thank you,
Appreciate you,
Oz.
Oz. Um, yeah,
Very Twitch-like, actually. That kind of think of it that way.
yeah, very
Um.
nice.
All right. But yeah, so I think this story will be interesting given the Olympics and the World Cup and any international sports related thing moving forward where Israel is involved. So, I mean, I remember, like, it had to be the last World Cup. There was a lot of people, a lot of fans, who were in support of Palestine back. I think it was even last year or 2 years ago, back then, so I can only imagine. Yeah, German Olympics.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Nick. I can only imagine moving forward, especially over the next few months/years, how Palestinian solidarity will intensify at these events for sure. But we're going to talk about soccer now. Well, football for everyone else in the world, and how that relates to Israel. So moving forward here. So this is from MintPress News, written by a person that you guys know very well if you are subscribed to us and know us well, by Alan MacLeod, who did an investigative article entitled Goalposts and Gunfire, Israel's Deliberate Attacks on Palestinian Football and Its Players. So, continuing on, amid an ongoing onslaught against the Gaza Strip by apartheid Israel, the Palestinian national football team was a Cinderella story at this year's AFC Asian Cup, reaching the knockout stages, eventually falling to the hosts and eventual winners hosted in Qatar.
Qatar.
But while the challenge of the football field was hard enough, the Palestinian football team had to deal with a unique challenge that no other national squad faces, that of an unrelenting attack on it from Israel. This attack has included jailing, torturing, shooting, and killing top players, bombing Palestinian infrastructure, and restricting the movement of players in and out of the country. This has led to a growing global movement calling for Israel to be banned from international sporting competitions as part of a wider campaign to implement boycott, divestment, and sanctions, or otherwise known as BDS. South Africa-based group Red Card Israel, for example, told MintPress that, quote, the action of suspending Israel from international sport creates a symbolic support against the unlawful occupation of Israel in the Palestinian territories and shows solidarity for the Palestinian people living under the apartheid regime. Shout out to you, South Africa, for actually giving a shit. So we continue. Palestine started with one simple goal in the Asian Cup: to put a smile on people's faces back home, giving them hope by representing them on an international stage. In fact, they succeeded, becoming the toast of the tournament, playing attractive, positive football, including a 3-0 win over Hong Kong, China. Yet they did so despite generations of players shot, killed, or permanently disabled by Israeli warplanes and snipers. For example, in January 2014, and I'm going to butcher these names, so I'm sorry in advance, cousins Jawar Nasir Jawar, 19, and Adam Abd al Rauf Habiliya, 17, young stars about to be called to the national team, were traveling home from a training session near Ramallah. They were ambushed by the IDF, who shot al Rauf in the legs. Jawar rushed to his aid, only to be peppered with bullets himself, including 7 in his left foot, 3 in his right, and 1 in the hand. An attack dog was unleashed on them, and soldiers subsequently broke al-Rauf's leg for good measure, suggesting they knew who the pair were. Their careers were over in a flash, and their destiny was stripped away. Now 29 and 27, respectively, Awar and al-Rauf would have been in their prime for the 2024 tournament. While the pair survived partially thanks to the medical treatment in Jordan, many of their peers were less fortunate. Tarek al-Kuto, a promising midfielder, was killed by the IDF in 2004. 5 years later, during Operation Cast Lead, Israel killed 3 more top players, Ayman al-Kurd, Shahid Sabake, and Wajeh Mostaha. Also in 2009, 18-year-old phenomenon Saji Darwish was struck down by an Israeli sniper near Ramallah. As you can see here, and if you zoom in, you can see, some Palestinian players,
On crutches.
who are amputeed now, having to use crutches, in order to play. So, so that picture was taken this past summer. Arrests, tortures, and killings of Palestinian footballers became a regular headline in Palestine, noted Palestinian writer Amish Baroud. One of the most infamous examples of this was Mahmoud Sarak, who was arrested and held for 3 years without trial or visits from his family. Protesting his treatment, Sarak, a Palestinian international star, went on a hunger strike for 3 months. In the process, he almost died and lost nearly half his usual body weight. His case became a cause célèbre around the footballing world, with supporter clubs and even footballing legends like Eric Cantona, Michel Planini, and Lilian Furman calling for his release. The international pressure caused Israel to relate and free Sarak, but the permanent health issues he suffered meant his career was over. Sarak's case is far from the most extreme, however. Araya Issa, one of the country's top strikers, was sentenced to 16 years in prison in 2003. After being diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2011, he was released but died 4 years later. Samer Rawah, meanwhile, has enjoyed a fruitful career, playing 40 times for Palestine in international competitions. He would no doubt have achieved more, however, if he had not been arrested at a border crossing between Jordan and the West Bank and accused by Israel of being an associate of Hamas. Maraba was detained for 7 months, during which he missed many crucial qualifying games for the 2015 AFC Asian Cup and the 2014 Asian Games. And on the same day in 2012, Israeli forces arrested Mohammed Mir, a promising 23-year-old forward from the Amari refugee camp who had managed to forge a career in Europe, and Omar Abdul
Ruiz.
Oh, that's French. That would be Was.
Okay.
Wais. Wais. The goalkeeper for the Palestinian national football team. Their arrest spurred more calls for Israel to be barred from international sporting competitions. Speaking with MintPress News, a spokesperson for Red Card Israel explained that suspending Israel from sporting events would illustrate that the violation of human rights results in exclusions on an international level, and that it cannot continue to blatantly disregard international law while still enjoying the privilege of international participation in sport. But even if they had not spent time in prison, the occupation has touched every footballer negatively. Palestinian athletes have to live, train, and perform under immense psychological pressure. Mahmoud Wadi, for instance, revealed that he had to live with the constant threat of death during Israeli occupation. I would go to bed at night and stare at the ceiling, expecting it to come crashing down on my head at any moment, instead of living through Operation Protective Edge. Many players that I played against or with while in Gaza had died, he added. Wadi's woes did not stop there. A day before Palestine's first Asian Cup game against Iran in January, he was informed that his cousin had been killed in the Israeli attack. Wadi is one of the few Ghazians to play for Palestine in recent years. The Israeli government has imposed a medieval-style siege on the densely populated strip. It strictly controls the amount of food and basic goods entering and exiting, making elite sport extremely difficult. Ghazian football has suffered, with many top players, including Wadi, leaving for Egypt.
As you do.
But life for a footballer in the West Bank can also be wrought with difficulty. Israel, which controls so much about life in Palestine, regularly denies exit visas to all domestically based Palestinian footballers, leading to the country having to forfeit games and drop out of tournaments. Palestine was scheduled to play in a crucial World Cup 2010 qualifying match against Singapore, but Israeli officials blocked the team from leaving the country. Despite protests, the footballing authorities elected not to reschedule the match, but penalized Palestine, leading to their exit from the tournament. In May 2008, the team was barred from leaving the country to play at the AFC Challenge Cup. 3 years later, two national team players were refused.
The team
Let me
was,
finish.
Yeah.
3 years later, the two national team players were refused re-entry into the West Bank after a match against Thailand. It is in part these sorts of arbitrary travel restrictions that have led selectors to look to the diaspora Palestinian population for players.
So Israel kept them from leaving. That means they couldn't play. Then the AFC Cup went, well, we're going to penalize you because you weren't here.
Couldn't play.
Right. So, and then later they didn't let them back in after going to Thailand to play. Like, okay, so just sure. I mean, okay.
Yeah. Well, as I said, this was back in the aughts. So I'm sure now, again, especially given we have Olympics coming up, World Cup soon to follow.
And that leads me
what
to
years in that anyone what's
this.
the year of the
It's
next
like
World Cup? When
July. I don't know about the World Cup, but
the Olympics is happening in Paris this summer.
Yeah, so at Palestine 001 says double standards of International Olympics Committee, IOC's ban on Russian athletes, but for Israel's athletes, no, despite the fact that some Israeli athletes also serve as active members of the Israeli Defense Forces. And this is from the ELO movement, I think. EKO movement. Yeah, so while Israel's military is gearing up to invade Rafah, its team is set to compete in the Olympics this July. Let's call on the International Olympic Committee to ban Israel from competition now at eko.org/Gaza. And
the IOC is corrupt. The IOC is corrupt as hell. So.
For sure. But I wanted to also bring this up, which part we were talking about this earlier, right? So 1972 massacre, the Munich massacre. The Munich massacre was a terrorist attack carried out during the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, right? After two Palestinian Christian villages whose inhabitants were expelled by the IDF, right? So, yeah, this was essentially 8 members of the Palestinian militant organization Black September, who infiltrated the Olympic Village, killed 2 members of the Israeli Olympic team, and took 9 others hostage. So yeah, I mean, this is not, which we know how it goes with hostages and Palestine and whatever. It's a lot of times allegedly. So, especially when you look up what Israel's false flags look like, but I digress.
Who are these people?
Hey, look at that. New donation from Kate. on Ko-fi. Appreciate you. Look at that.
It landed right on my head.
I know, right? Don't let that money go to your head. Don't do it. I'll go
Any
check
message
that.
though?
I'll look. I just have to refresh it, I think. Kamishwari Kate donated $15.
Oh,
I
thank
don't
you,
know.
Kate.
I don't know if it lets you leave a message. It might. But you know, I'm not sure. Let us know if it did or didn't. If not, I'll try to fix that so it does, because that would be nice, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, appreciate
Well, at
you.
least we know it works. So thank you, Kate.
Yep.
But anyway,
look at that. You made that little green sliver go up. Look at that little green sliver. So,
the constant Israeli military attacks have also taken a toll on the footballing infrastructure. In 2009, Israel destroyed the Rafah National Stadium in Gaza, and no football is being played at Yarmouk Stadium in Gaza City because Israel has turned the structure into an open-air prison camp. Images showing dozens of Palestinians, some as young as 9, stripped and paraded around at gunpoint went viral on social media in December, sparking global outrage. All of this has meant that Palestine regularly has to play its home games in other countries. The team had to pull out of the Merdeka tournament in Malaysia due to the Israeli onslaught, and Palestine is scheduled to play all of its upcoming
Who
home
are these
matches for the
people?
20. Oh,
another
here we go again.
donation from Kate.
Okay,
Appreciate
let me
you.
finish this sentence. And Palestine is scheduled to play all of its upcoming home matches for the 2026 World Cup qualification tournament in Kuwait. Okay, so that answered my question. 2020.
Yep.
Um,
And Kate writes, "What do you know? I can leave a message." So
cool.
yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, awesome.
Yep.
So now we know it works.
Yeah.
Shout out to Reef for figuring this out.
Oh. I had to yell at PayPal
That's
this
why.
morning. It was fun times.
That's why you're the tech genius of
Yep.
Ryan. So, but yeah, as you were saying, Reef, it just like Palestine is being penalized for not being able to, like, they have nowhere to practice.
No.
Their teammates are essentially, at worst, dying,
dead, maimed,
and
friends maimed.
right. And Israel is not being held accountable for any of this. But as I said, I'm sure this will change.
Yeah.
Possibly in some ways. I'm not sure. I doubt the IOC is going to do shit.
No.
But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of protesting.
That's what I'm sure they're worried about.
Or anything that Israel is involved with. There's going to be, a lot of pushback from crowds or whatever. So, but I'm just thinking about this, like, it's just going to get, and I think if that other people have kind of mentioned this, like, people ostracizing Israel is just going to make Israelis kind of double down and just to continue to verify, like, the narrative of, we're being so suppressed, like, we had to deal with what we went through in the Holocaust, and, like, we're being, like, oppressed again by, the world, and, like, they're not letting us play, and, like, just a whole lot of that bullshit, discounting their assault on Palestinians. Like, they don't even mention that, but they're going to play the victim in terms of whenever they essentially are forced to be accountable of what they're doing to Palestinians. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting Olympics for sure. Anyway, in contrast, aside from some vocal opposition from opposing fans at games, Israel and its national football team have faced almost no negative repercussions. This is partially due to the position of the sport's governing body, FIFA, which has consistently refused to act upon requests to hold Israel to account. In January, the Palestinian Football Association released a formal request calling on FIFA to ban Israel from sporting competitions over blatant human rights violations like the ones cataloged here. It is not as if FIFA has not taken action before. In the 1990s, it banned Yugoslavia from competing at the 1994 World Cup amid a war with the Balkans. And in 2022, the organization indefinitely suspended Russia from international competitions because it invaded Ukraine. Yet these states were carrying out actions that Western powers, above all the US, opposed. In contrast, aggressive actions or human rights violations by Western powers never result in FIFA bans, a fact suggesting where the real power in the organization lies. Indeed, it appears that opposing Israeli attacks is more likely to result in negative consequences than carrying them out. A number of professional footballers in Europe have been fired for making public comments criticizing Israel or supporting Palestine. Indonesia, slated to host the FIFA 2023 Under-20 World Cup, was stripped of that honor after uncertainty over whether it would allow the Israeli team to compete. Indonesia does not maintain diplomatic relations with Israel. As such, in football, as with politics, any actor proposing or carrying out a principled, nonviolent boycott of Israel is likely to face consequences from authorities. 37 U.S. states currently have anti-BDS laws on their books, despite the fact that nearly 3/4 of Americans oppose such legislation. Despite the opposition from football's governing body, a growing grassroots global movement is emerging, demanding sporting authorities take action to oppose genocide. This is being led by South Africa is significant. That so much of the Palestine solidarity movement emanates from South Africa is significant. Until the 1990s, South Africa was dominated by a human rights abusing apartheid regime. But mounting international pressure turned the country into a pariah state and forced South Africa to change its ways. Throughout the period, though, the white supremacist government maintained support from both the Israeli and American governments. Today, South Africa is leading a team at the International Court of Justice charging Israel with the crime of genocide. Red Card Israel explained that they see the victory in South Africa as a blueprint to follow, telling MintPress that, quote, the intention behind the boycott of Israel in football and other sports is to further the intention of gaining equality for Palestinians on all international and political fronts. South Africa is best placed to bear testament to how sports, academic, and cultural boycotts add pressure on illegitimate governments to crumble under the weight of unjust systemic oppression. It worked for South Africa, so there's no reason why it won't work in the case of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Which is why they're trying to ban it.
Yeah. And just as we've seen at the Asian Cup, sport has the potential to unite people, both nationally and internationally. Football fans around the world have shown their solidarity with Palestine. We've seen that before at the last World Cup. And many are now organizing to make the dream of an end to apartheid a reality. It is clear, however, that football's authorities will not welcome this movement. So, to achieve victory, organizers must show as much courage and determination as the Palestinian team did on the pitch this January.
Yep.
So,
hey, look at that. You can make that "Who Are These People" go off if you're watching us live. But if you're not watching us live, you can still donate at code-fee.com/Indie News Network. You can also do these things. Look, like and subscribe. Very easy. You know where those buttons are. They should be lighting up, right? Isn't that how it works now?
yes.
I think? Okay. Well, you can leave a comment, too. Let us know if that's working. You know, help that number go up. It's almost there. What is it? 1.84? I think I saw. Okay.
Yes.